I saw a movie. It wasn't a movie. It was 13 minutes, proof of concept of a movie just this past week. And it was terrific. It's terrific. I want to see the movie that this proof of concept is proof of. And these two young actually this filmmaker is been a second unit director. He's been directing. I've worked with him. So I work with him and I know how well he's able to shoot because I know what he's done. But he's been kind of working as under other directors to go out and shoot, little pieces of their films. And it was fascinating to me because he went out and he figured, the movie that he made, this 13-minute piece, is proof of concept of a larger movie, but the proof of concept was shot so well that I looked at it and I said, my God, is this going to be in the movie? And he's going to use the same actors and just keep going. That was not the plan. The proof of concept probably cost, to do 13 minutes, probably cost about $70,000. It wasn't cheap, but it was so well done that I immediately said, I want to see the movie that's made. And the people who are making it know that they are going to have to upgrade the cast. They're going to have to do a few. They don't need to upgrade the cinematography because it was brilliant, and the cinematographers worked with this guy before.
That actually brings up a memory. I have a friend called Dave Thies. He runs a rental company here. He does a lot of work with big reality TV people. A few years ago, a script came along, and he's like, I'm not a movie guy. This would be my first feature, but this is a really great script. He didn't bring it to me, but I'm just saying, like, this is a way to get your movie potentially made too. You have to find your way, but proof of concept, right? So he gets this script and he said, well, what would we do here? Let's shop it around. Didn't really get any traction there. So he put, I think it was about $30,000 of his own money into making a proof of concept. And the thing about it was a good proof of concept combined with a really well written script that was about something very unique, and it had a really creative angle. And it ended up being a movie that grossed about $180 million in the box office, and it was made for 6.7. It's called The Peanut Butter Falcon with Shia LaBeouf.
Wow. Oh, sure.
That story of a kid with Downs who wants to be a movie star, where the kid who actually has Downs in real life who wants to be a movie star plays the star of the movie, the main character. So in the proof of concept, he hired the best DP he knew, shot the actual kid, made a beautiful looking, wonderful thing. And then that combined with the script and the hook of like, this is the actual kid. Look, we can deliver on it. The quality's there. This is the actual kid, which is sweet. And read the script because it's phenomenal. And so they were able to get...
I saw the movie and I loved the movie, and I never heard the stories. Yeah. It's a great story.
But going back to the other thing is he never actually made any money on it himself, which is the other side of the industry, unfortunately, because you have a $180 million return and you don't really see anything. That's a whole different problem.
The other question is, but again, was it a proof of concept of him as a director? Is he going to get his next... Oh, he's a producer. Okay, he produced it. Yeah. Okay, well...
Yeah.
That happens. That does happen. But he had,
he put a great movie out there.
He's definitely put a great movie out there. And, I don't know. That's the kind of person I would get behind if I was, if I was in a position to, and hopefully I will be in a position to. That's the kind of people I want to support.
I think a lot of people come into the industry, and I'm guilty of this too. And thank God I had one initial acquaintance who was not shy to tell me what's up. But there's a lot of, I would almost say selfish behavior when people come here first. Everybody thinks they're the best thing since sliced bread. And if you come in with that attitude, it's going to be really hard because all you're going to do is wait for people to finally discover you and give you an opportunity. And you get this mindset where you shouldn't have to pay for anything. You don't have to put in any of the work because you have the idea and that's all it takes. Put some skin in the game. This guy put $30,000, which is not an insignificant amount of money, of his own money into this for the chance of at least pitching this, right? And
look, of course, couldn't agree with you more. You got to do that. I mean, if that's your dream and that's what you want to do, and you're not doing it as just a one-off thing, of course you got to do that. I mean, you got to invest in your own stuff. I mean, it's like I tell independent investors all the time when they come to me, and I'm very careful about not wanting to take money unless the investor understands what he or she is getting into. I won't say, wait a minute, this is the movie business. You could lose every penny of this. There's no guarantees, nothing. Why do you want to do this? I said, if it's your kid or your nephew, or you want to do that because you want to support your family, go for it. Absolutely. And I would suggest that every time. But if you're looking at it as an investment where you're going to make big returns, look again. I mean, this is a high-risk investment that should only be a very small part of your net worth. You don't want to lose your house or your ability to put food on the table with an investment like that. If you can afford it and it's something you want to play with and you like the idea of it, of course, go for it. But you always have to be knowledgeable of what the end result could be.
The worst thing, it's funny because I know one guy that this worked for, and I know, unfortunately, a person that it didn't work for too. So there are actors who aren't moving ahead in their career, so they want to make their own films. And so I know two separate people who both cashed out their retirements and to make their own movie. And it wasn't some huge amount, but it was all they had. $200,000 in one case and a little bit more in the other. One of them did it the smart way in that he actually found somebody who was a director who has done successful movies, then asked that director to help with finding a producer who could do it, and so he really went in and put a team together that at least he knew the film was going to be done well. And I actually produced the finale of that movie too, so I was a little part of that as well. But he actually did have a good team, and it's kind of a sweet story. And I think they just about broke even on it. Had a limited theatrical release, but he just about at least got a movie and was able to get, he probably lost some money there, but, he didn't lose everything. In the other case, it was kind of a bit of a delusional process in the sense that, somebody who's never made a real film before has been on set as an actor a few times, so just kind of assumed that they knew what making a movie entails, getting that attitude of like, oh, I can do this, and writes a script and gets their friends together and starts just putting money into locations and gear and people and spending and spending and spending. And it's just not good. But he made something, but it was just not a good movie. Okay. So it didn't go anywhere. So and now just the money's gone. The movie can't be sold. It's not up to standard. It's not good. But
I'm sure there are many, many of those stories. And there's you feel bad about it, but you can't. There's not much you can say.
There's not much you can say. But what you said was the right thing. Put a percentage of funds into it that you can afford. And if all you can afford is $1,000, then make a tiny little short film and get really, really thrifty with it and try to figure out how you can actually tell a good story with that $1,000.
No, I totally agree with that. But what I'm saying is also, talent. We always extol talent. We say, oh, this person is so unbelievably talented. How could they fail? Well, talent can fail all the time, every day, all day. Yeah. It isn't. Yes, it's important. It's critical to making great stuff. But there's a lot of talent and not a lot of drive always.
That's true.
If the drive isn't there for the talent can just sit there. I've seen great people and even great little, ideas that go nowhere because nobody has. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to take it to the next step.
Yeah.
I think talent is an entry level thing.
I agree.
In the world that I'm thinking about. You got to have it. I think you have it. I think I have it. I think other people have it for certain things. I'm not talented in everything. I'm talented in certain things that I know. I know how to make movies. I know how to do it. I'm comfortable with doing it, but I still have to go out and find the money and
there's a hustle behind it
and figure all those other things out. And if I don't have the hustle to do it, I'm just going to sit on my couch saying, well, I know I could do it, but
Yeah.
you know,
You
you're
never
not
end up
gonna do
doing it. You know, I have a great example of that in a different medium. A guy I went to high school with, arguably to this date, probably at 16, was probably the best artist in terms of
Yeah.
comic type doodles. Entire all, classroom, everything was just doodles and doodles, and then really, really creative, good, different stuff, kind of dark vibe. I mean, this guy could have been the top illustrator for any comic book, whatever, or maybe even producing his own stuff. He's a truck driver. He just didn't develop the talent, doesn't have work ethic in that sense. He didn't want to aspire. He didn't want to move out of the small town. He didn't want to, just kind of like, I guess, no belief in himself, no ambition to try and accomplish anything, which again, I'm not necessarily shitting on that. It's just, backing up what you're saying, the talent is not really.
I mean, I can think of, as you said, that one individual, I can think of a dozen people that I have met over the course of my life who had what I thought was extraordinary talent, but never developed it. I mean, they may have gotten a job in some allied field close to what they did, but never really went the distance, never took what they had and figured out a way to or had the drive to really find a way to get into the right places. In some cases, I've helped people. I mean, I found a young, guy years ago who was a terrific artist, just like you say, and it sounded very much like the guy you're talking about. I mean, a guy who just drew all day long, all the time, and he drew really interesting stuff, and he was a really wonderful artist. And he came out of a family of set painters. All they did was, they didn't do fine art. They just did what they had to do. And he was on a track to become a set painter, do what his parents did or his father did, but he had a skill that was quite a bit beyond that and had a vision too. And he's still working at it, but he's a director now. And this is somebody who, I still believe he's going to break through and he's going to make something really amazing because he knows, I mean, not just me, but other people who saw his work.
But
said,
luckily, he has
you are
people like you saying
you are
that.
amazing.
Yeah.
You got to keep with this, and he went into fine arts. And from fine arts, he's moving into film, and he knows how to do it because he's very good.
It's crazy how sometimes you just need a little bit of validation from the right person.
Well, I think that's true. I mean, I think validation is key.
Yeah.
I had good validation from teachers and people along the way in my own.
And once a guy like
life.
Mel Brooks says, "Hey, I like working with you," that's got to be.
No, that was great, but it took me.
But you have to still get.
I had
there,
to already
obviously.
be in a position
That's right.
to get in the room with Mel Brooks,
Right.
and I got to Mel Brooks through another famous director, actually, who wasn't famous when I knew him, but that's how it happened. But these things, you of course you have to take advantage of everything that you can, everything that's out there, every skill you have. I think you also have to take advantage of the one thing that you can't determine, which is your luck. I mean, if a lucky break happens, you have to jump on it and move. If you think it's going to happen again, you're going to be sorry that you didn't do it because it may not happen for 20 years.
Especially for actors and directors and writers. But Joe Pesci, I saw a little interview, and Tom Hanks, I met him at a long time ago, and he said the same thing when we were kind of doing an interview. But Joe Pesci just put a thing up where he said, "Look, I came out here and I don't know, nobody wanted to represent me. Look at
Sure.
Joe Pesci, right? Like, but he did this little movie, and your friend Marty Scorsese saw it, and Raging Bull, and he was developing that with De Niro, and they saw him in some other movie and wanted to have lunch with him, and not through his agent or anything. He's like, "Hey, is this Joe Pesci?" A phone call, right? "This is Robert De Niro." I was like, "The Robert De Niro, right?" And they have this conversation, and that's where he kind of said, "Look, you can't. You do need to be incredibly lucky, but you also have to be prepared for that moment."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the key, right? You have to work. You have to develop the work ethics of a professional and the skill sets and all that stuff, and be ready. And nowadays that means having a solid demo reel that's already done, because if you meet Jonathan Sanger on the street and he's, you got an interesting look, I'm working on a movie, send me your stuff. Do you want to scramble then and get headshots and get your reel together? Do you want to wait 2 weeks now to send him something? Or do you just want to be, there you go, you got it. You got to be ready for those things.
Absolutely. Well, that's, and that's something that you've taken that idea, knowing that, and helped a lot of people to get that. That's because you recognize that that's a tremendous value. That is a great value.
It's a tremendous value, and it's also a good offer to sell and stabilize. I love win-win situations. Yeah. If I can have something that helps people and I can also stabilize my bills a little bit, then everybody wins as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I think, I met a lot of interesting people along the way. And when I thought somebody had really special talent in some areas, I tried to encourage them. And I think in many cases I have. A lot of cases, they're still developing stories. We haven't gotten to the point where we can say, oh, look, even when I did the Discovery program, for example, that was an idea of taking people who had never done a directing thing before and start to direct. Yeah. Okay, a lot of them have gone on to major success. A lot of them have gone on to moderate success where they're working in the business, they're working in television or in advertising or something like that. But they've actually made a career that was built on something that they did first with me. That was great. Yeah. I'm thrilled with that. I didn't expect that I was going to have 10 Marty Scorsese's coming out of my program. I just wanted to have people who could make a living at their craft if they learned how to do it and did it well. Yeah. And I'm still doing that. Now I don't do it in some formal way, but if I come across something that I really like, I'm always going to be interested in seeing it. I mean, there are a number of young filmmakers or not so young filmmakers who I am still and they don't even have to be filmmakers. I mean, musicians and other people, people who I think have great talent and also great drive, and they just need that lucky moment to break through. And if I can help accelerate that in some way, and I can't always, but sometimes I can, then it's not only a win-win. There's a great satisfaction out of being able to, and it isn't. I'm not talking about financial satisfaction because I would love to say that every time I recommend somebody, I'm going to get something from it, but that it almost never happens that way. But I don't care.
It gives it's legacy and meaning and purpose, and giving back and all that stuff is just as valuable.
It's great. No, it's a great.
As long as you can pay your bills and you can be of benefit to somebody, it's that's a good thing. Kevin O'Leary was one of the Shark Tank guys, right? He posted something which was a little bit of validation for me because I've been saying this for the last 5-10 years. But nowadays, it used to be like when everything was a lot more structured and organized, and studios were studios and all that. You could go work at Warner Brothers and work your way up and all that. But that's all changed. We know that. But he kind of mentioned that those who can combine the chaos of art, who are artists, with the kind of black and white nature of business are going to be the winners for the next 10, 20 years. Because if you're an artist now and you can convince yourself to just, even though you might not want to, start thinking a little bit more business-like as an offer, a product, a service you can provide. Everybody needs content, and content is empty without story. And I actually teach this in my courses, that story, the hero's journey, the writer's journey, all that stuff that we know where things happen, it's really no different to marketing in a way. And if you understand story and how things develop and evolve, and how a hero needs to, they're in a place of comfort, something happens, they're uncomfortable, they have to go out and solve for that, so when you think about it commercial wise, the hero is the customer at home. they're on their couch, suddenly their tooth starts hurting, right? They need to resolve this, right? Now, the Herald, who in the story comes in and says, you need to come out because there's a reluctant hero, right? So you don't want to go to the dentist. You're a reluctant hero. You're sitting on your couch. You're like, well, maybe it'll pass. Maybe it'll go. I'll just wait another day or 2 or 3. And it gets worse. And then an ad comes up and hits you right at the right moment saying, hey, you might have been reluctant because you don't want somebody to drill into your tooth, right? But then this guy comes up and says, we can knock you out for a root canal. You don't need to be awake for this. There's no pain. So this is sleep dentistry. A new solution. Yeah. Hallelujah. Let me go out. So you see how the journey is very similar. Mm-hmm. And if you know how to tell stories and you start learning a little bit of business skills, in this day and age, I think you can really do any number of really creatively fulfilling and still financially rewarding things that previously you couldn't, because you had to work with a corporate ad agency. There were only so many video production companies. Everything was formatted the same way, 30-second, 15-second spots. Social media has changed all that. YouTube has changed all that. Your ad can be for a 4-minute short film. Like it could be all kinds of stuff.
Oh, and that's true.
Yeah. When I had the millennial job interview start going viral, that little conversation between the millennial and a baby boomer, I was getting so many inquiries by penitentiaries and job placement agencies and all kinds of corporate trainings that wanted to, hire me to make little video, a training series like that, because they just thought it was a more engaging way to teach people.
It's a great, I loved it. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So anyway, the point here was just to go back to maybe the beginning and saying that, if you're an artist and you can put a little bit of business skills into your brain, I think you would, it's not a prerequisite to success, because you can also just work your way in, work with a producer, work your way up, do all that stuff. You can still do that, but why not try to independently make something work for yourself?
Well, I think what you're saying is that, while you're waiting for those other moments to happen, life is what happens when you're waiting for something else to happen. It's the idea you got to keep moving. It's like you're a shark. You have to keep moving forward. If you stop moving, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So as an individual, what can you do as an individual that doesn't require the luck or even the opportunity to be able to meet with somebody yet?
Right.
I mean, maybe you'll get to that, but figure out what you can do now. Yeah. What can you do now? You can write something. You can figure out a way to create something that's going to make you more attractive to those people that you're ultimately going to meet. And that's important.
People are a lot more likely to want to work with you if they discover you in some way.
Yeah.
It's rather than you going to somebody, hey, hire me. So if you're putting product or something out, think about how we met is a result of me starting a business that's not, all the stuff I've done, but getting to the point where I have an office in Beverly Hills in the first place, and I'm down the hall from you. And if that wouldn't have happened,
opportunity happens that way sometimes, and that's what I said. You and I both took advantage of an opportunity to meet each other because both of us have something to learn from each other. I've done a lot, and I've had a long history as a film producer, but I want to stay up on what is happening and changing in the world of film. I don't want to, if I just sit back and try to do things like I did them 30 years ago, I'm going to be no place. I am retiring myself out of the business.
Exactly.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So in order not to do that, I have to be involved with people like you, with you particularly, who are constantly thinking about new ways to use media, to understand media, to figure out distribution in different fashion than I have known it. And I'm also trying to do that. I'm trying to find, okay, what are the new ways we can make something and get it out to a wide audience without requiring 1,000 middlemen who are going to take everything away from us.
I think exactly, and vice versa. So I think it's, you have done things and have accessed things and put stuff out there that are way beyond anything in terms of scope and scale and in methods that I don't know. So that it is great to be able to kind of share experiences. And I've made it a point when I was really young to make all my friends if you look at my friends, they're all at a minimum 10 years older than me. Wow. At a minimum. Because I want to think and work like people who are at least 10 years ahead of me. And now I'm getting to that age where I feel like, okay, well, now I'm going to look that way still. But in addition to it, I'm also going to look back. And now I want to have some mentors and friends who are 10 years younger than me. And if you can create, or 20, you know what I mean?
It's what you say. I mean, I find it almost exactly the same thing in my way, in that I tend to be looking at the younger people. I mean, I'm closer to younger people than me. Yeah. Most of the people who are my age don't have anything to say to me. I mean, I don't mean that. I mean, some of them do. Yeah. Some of them are great. Certainly, I wouldn't mind being in a room with Marty Scorsese, who's, older than I am. But, and people like that whose minds are young and are constantly thinking of new things. But a lot of people have kind of frozen into what they do. And I'm going to learn much more from people who are my children's age and people your age and people who are right in the game right now. And that is the most valuable thing to me, for me to be able to stay relevant. It's very important. Yeah.
I think the takeaway here is have good friends in all age ranges that can share, and you can, mutually benefit from each other, and stay ambitious and push and learn skills that you don't have and keep growing, right?
Well, definitely.
Yeah.